Hey folks, this is David Smith at Correctional Officer Lifestyle. I'm recording a video today about fatigue. Fatigue is probably the number one component of corrections that causes it to be a difficult job. So, that being said, I thought it important to do a video on it. Fatigue comes in three different categories. Personally, I feel this. Physical fatigue, mental fatigue, and emotional fatigue. Physical fatigue, of course, can also be broken down into three categories. Physical activity, sustained physical activity. In the state of Florida, we have a position called internal security. Internal security is responsible for all of the fence checks, all the building checks, all the security checks. I don't know about many other institutions, but my institution is 1.1 miles around, and you've got to go around the outside perimeter, check the fence. You got to go around the inside perimeter, check the fence. You've got to go on the inside buildings. You got to go the outside buildings, the maintenance, the warehouse, firing range, training building, etc. You're responsible for doing all those security checks and making sure those checks get done. Internal security, if you are not used to physical activity, get ready. I hope you ate your Wheaties, because internal security is a beast of a post. I'm a heavier guy. I'm in a weight loss journey, but I am a heavier individual, and I was on internal security. I was assigned to internal security on midnight shift for 3 months. And in that 3 months, I lost down to a 38 pant size from 46. I lost 8 inches in 3 months simply because of the walking. Another place you might encounter that type of sustained physical activity is in a confinement unit, which I spent a lot of time in confinement. Frequent security checks. Frequent security checks of the entire unit. Couple that with inmates can't go anywhere unless they're escorted. Inmates can't come out of the cells unless they are restrained. Inmates can't shower unless they are restrained and escorted to the shower. You have to search every cell that's emptied. It is a physically demanding job to work in a confinement unit. So that's another one where you are having that sustained physical activity. And if you are assigned to as an extra in a dormitory, which we don't have that very often anymore with the staffing levels the way they are, but if you're assigned to an extra in a dorm or you're assigned to internal security, you are a gopher. You're a gopher. By that, I mean your supervisor will look at you and say, hey man, go for this. Hey man, go for that. Hey man, go for this. Hey man, go for that. You're a gopher. You're going to be running. You're going to be doing a lot of what I would consider menial work. That all requires that sustained physical activity. The exact opposite of that is fatigue caused by inactivity. Fatigue caused by doing nothing. That is a very real thing in corrections. If you're assigned to a housing unit, your office might be very small. The inmates around you will be moving around. They'll be doing this, doing that, doing the other. The office around you might be very small. And you're largely going to be inactive. If you're assigned a perimeter post, you're largely going to be inactive. If you're assigned a tower, you are largely going to be inactive. But you have to remain alert. You have to stay focused. And that creates a totally different type of physical fatigue. The last type of fatigue, physical fatigue, that I need to talk about is what happens after a physical altercation with an inmate. For those people that have had fight training or actively engaged in fight training, they know how their body is going to respond. They know how their body is going to react to physical stimulus such as that. They're not the ones I'm worried about. The ones that I am worried about are the ones that have never played sports, are the ones that have never done any fight training. If they've been in a fight, they probably lost. These are the guys that I'm worried about. These are the girls that I'm worried about. These are the ones that you don't know how you're going to respond. You don't know how they're going to respond. It is vital that everybody involved in a physical altercation with an inmate be checked by medical, because you can go from feeling fine when you're on that adrenaline surge to, as soon as the adrenaline goes away, man, there's something wrong. Medical will be able to determine that there's something wrong. But you have to know your body enough to know when something is wrong if you get into a physical altercation, and medical can help with that. Okay? There is a modern trend in America. I am a victim of it. I'm working on fixing it. But the modern trend is obesity. And it's probably not all that modern. But I grew up in the 70s. In the 70s, you were outside. You were playing. If it was raining, your day was shot. Neighborhood football games, neighborhood baseball games, basketball games. We had a basketball goal right outside my house. There was the curmudgeon on the street that didn't want anybody playing basketball, so he'd park his car right under it. And after the first time we tore his car up, he didn't do that anymore. But that's the world that I grew up in. The world today, everybody wants to get online and go play video games. And that is a inactive thing. It is a physically inactive thing. So there's this workforce coming into corrections that some of them might have a physical background. The vast majority of them do not. So that's something that we need to look at helping them through and dealing with. And I think, active training is going to be the way to help them. But you have to get them motivated enough to do it. Apologize, folks. It's an early morning. The next type of fatigue that I talk about in corrections is mental fatigue. And mental fatigue is a very real thing. You can be mentally exhausted and physically wired and ready to go. That is often what you're going to find with your dormitory officers, the ones that are sitting there fully alert. They have to be alert. Your tower officers, your perimeter officers, everybody having to be fully alert. That's the problem that you are going to run into a lot of times with that, is the mental fatigue. Oftentimes in corrections, you can't get done with one crisis before the next one hits. You can't get done with one thing before the next one hits. One of my former coworkers, there was probably about 4 of us that worked on shift together. The 4 of us would do 3 hours worth of work and generate 15 hours worth of paperwork. And that was a common occurrence. So that 3 hours worth of physical labor is resulting in 15 hours of mental stress, making sure that you dot all your I's and cross all your T's. The non-stop barrage. You've got crisis situations. You've got emergency situations. You've got inmates that need this, inmates that need that. Your boss calls and needs this. Your warden calls and wants you to do this. Medical calls, they're complaining they didn't get their inmates, and this, that, and the other. And you're bearing the brunt of all that mentally. Folks, the best advice I can give you is to get a pad of paper and a pen. As these things come at you, write them down, move on. Write them down, move on. When things slow down, reference your pad of paper. Your pad of paper is your second brain. You'll be able to keep things in better line. You'll be able to keep things in better chronological order. And your reports will be easier to write if you have it written down on a piece of paper. Okay? I have often found myself having to wait to the end of shift for things to slow down enough, or when I am relieved and I'm no longer working, for things to slow down enough for me to go back to my list and complete the tasks that I have to complete. It is not unheard of, especially at my rank as a captain in the Florida Department of Corrections. It is not unheard of for me to pull a 12 to 15 hour shift when everybody else is working 8 or 8.5, simply because there's so much that I have to get done. The last piece of advice I can give you for mental fatigue is to mentally prepare yourself before you leave the house. Get it in your head that you're going to have a rough day. If you have an easy day, man, that's a bonus. But get it in your head, get it wired in your head that you're going to have a rough day. That way you're mentally prepared for it. Now, the last type of fatigue in corrections, and is possibly the most dangerous type of fatigue, because this type of fatigue is what leads to staff leaving. This type of fatigue is what leads to suicide. This type of fatigue is what leads to divorce. This type of fatigue is what leads to bad relationships. This is the type of fatigue that is the most detrimental in the Department of Corrections, and that is emotional fatigue. Emotional fatigue in corrections is caused by a litany of different things. Number one is the constant barrage of negativity. You can't find much positive when you're dealing with inmates. Whether the inmate is upbeat or not, there's negativity there. The reason there's negativity there is this individual is being punished by society for crimes that he committed, or she committed, against society. I don't know about you, but as a child, I was never punished where I didn't have any negative emotions. There's the constant beratement from the inmates. The inmates see you as an authority figure. If they don't, then you're doing something wrong. The inmates see you as an authority figure, and as such, they're going to rebel. When they rebel, there's going to be that beratement. They're going to berate you. They're not supposed to, but they're going to. Okay? You have to maintain your professionalism. Inmates are supposed to maintain their professionalism. They won't. They won't. I promise you, as a captain in the Florida Department of Corrections, whenever I make an inmate angry, the very first thing that goes away is my title. That's the very first thing that goes away is my title. The second thing that goes away is my name. My name is easy. Smith. Captain Smith. All that goes away. It is often replaced by racial slurs, vulgarity, profanity, and things of this nature. That is the world that I deal with. Now, as an officer, as a captain, I engage with the inmate population on a pretty regular basis. But if an officer calls me to assist with an inmate, that inmate is 9 times out of 10 already furious, already upset, already angry, and I'm walking into this situation with an already upset inmate. And I get hit with it. Okay? We're forced to maintain our professionalism, because if we don't maintain our professionalism, then we have allowed the inmate, and yes, Anthony Ganji, I'm going to use a term from you, we have allowed the inmate to remove us from our prescribed role. And they won. We have to maintain professionalism. Inmates won't. We have a playbook. We have a rule book that we have to go by. The inmates aren't going to use theirs. Okay? On top of all of that negativity you get at work, you're working long hours, you're working extended hours. Your family and friends, they will feel abandoned. They'll look over at your empty chair and wonder if you're ever coming home. You won't be around that much. Folks, this is a very emotionally draining job. This is a very emotionally draining profession. And the inmates will capitalize on your emotional fatigue. Don't listen to them. Don't believe them. If an inmate says, you're not like the others, don't believe that. If an inmate says, we like it when you work the dorm, you're doing something wrong. If an inmate says, we'd rather have you than so-and-so, you're doing something wrong. Don't listen to those inmates, and don't believe the inmates when they start telling you it's okay to not do that. It's okay to not do this. Hey, we'll take care of the dorm. You lay there and you sit there and go to sleep. We'll take care of the dorm. Don't listen to them. They are manipulating you, and they're manipulating you because you're emotionally compromised enough to be a target. Now, I have told you the types of fatigue. How do you deal with it? How do you deal with it? First and foremost, I know at my institution and in my agency, we have a peer support network. We have people that are assigned to help people that are having trouble. The peer support network that we've got, they are jam up. I would trust them with anyone. Okay? If the peer support network you have at your facility isn't working, every agency I've ever heard of has an employee assistance program. Ours is through KEPRO. And they're jam up. I've used them twice. Okay? Those agencies are there to help you. Those people and those agencies are there to help you. It is not a sign of weakness to ask for that help. It is a sign of maturity. Ask for the help. Get the help that you need. Okay? I said that in my very first video on this channel. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of maturity. Get help if you need it. Okay? This is going to be the hardest thing you will ever do. This next thing that I'm going to say. Leave work at work and leave home at home. Leaving work at work means when you walk out that gate, you're no longer Officer so-and-so or Sergeant so-and-so. I'm no longer Captain Smith. When I walk out that gate, I'm David Smith. I'm a totally different person. I don't have to be hypervigilant. I don't have to be a captain in the Florida Department of Corrections. I can be a husband. I can be a father. I can be a son. I can be a brother. I can be a friend. I don't have to be a captain. I can walk away from that. I can leave that behind the gate. Learn how to do that. That's important. But also, get a hobby. I have plenty of hobbies. I do. You look on the wall behind me, there's guitars. I play music. I sing. I'm an artist. I'm a woodworker. I love going to the gym. Going to the gym and working out. I love these things. And I do them. And while I'm doing them, I don't think about work. I don't. And leaving home at home, if you go to work and all you're doing is dwelling about the situation that you've left at home, you're not 100% on your game, and the inmates see that. The inmates absolutely see that, and they will absolutely capitalize on that. Okay? Last, you've heard me talk about the gym. I'm in a weight loss journey right now. Folks, exercise is one of the biggest ways to get rid of that fatigue. It sounds moronic. If I am physically drained, why am I going to go do exercise? Because it'll help you. If I'm emotionally drained, why am I going to go do exercise? Because every time you exercise, you hit that center of your brain that releases dopamine. It makes you happy. It makes you happy. Don't believe me? Try it. It's awesome. Okay? Eating right. I just recently started eating right. As a power lifter, I would eat whatever I wanted to eat. And that was detrimental. It was dangerous. I didn't care for it. I didn't like what it did to my body. I didn't like what it did to my emotional psyche. I didn't like any of it. Now that I am on a better diet, I feel better. I do. I feel better. I think I'm better able to function at work. I'm certainly better able to deal with life as it comes at me because I don't have all of those chemicals in my system anymore. Do you know what they have to do to cane sugar to process it to make it white and put it in something. That's a horrible process. You're putting a lot of chemicals in your body. Folks, eat healthier. It'll help you. Physical exercise will help you. People in the employee assistance program and your peer support network, they will help you. Use them. Use them. If you need help, it is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. All right, folks. That's all I've got for this video. Sorry I took up so much bandwidth, but I realized that this is an important topic that needed to be discussed. Okay? As always, if you like the video, make sure and hit the like button. You want to see more, hit subscribe, hit the bell for notifications when I post new videos, and hit me with some comments, folks. I'm interested in hearing your stories about fatigue and support. As always, I ask that you keep them professional. No vulgarity, no profanity. Don't divulge any sensitive information. Don't divulge your agency's policies, and certainly don't compromise any ongoing investigations. Okay? There is no place for domestic violence in this world. 1-800-799-SAFE. 1-800-799-7233. That's the domestic violence hotline. If you are the victim or you know the victim of domestic violence, those people can help. All right. If you know the aggressor in a domestic violence situation, say something to somebody. The worst thing you can do is nothing. And if you are the aggressor in a domestic violence situation, there's help for you too. First, admit that you need it, then ask for it. Folks, this is Dave Smith at Correctional Officer Lifestyle. Remember that love shouldn't hurt. I am my brother's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. And I'll see you on the next video. Stay safe behind the fence.